What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of Be Shafe Daily Live. It's Brendan Schaefer here with you Monday evening, April 15th, 2024. Happy tax day, everybody. And for the Cardinals, it was a happy evening in Oakland at the Coliseum as Sonny Gray made his second start of the year, second start as a Cardinal. And when that start concluded, he still had the same ERA as before. 0. Goose egg. Sonny Gray, 6 shutout innings to extend his season streak to 11 shutout innings as the Cardinals beat the Oakland Athletics 3-1. Welcome in, everybody. If you're watching live on YouTube, appreciate you for being here. Hit that like button as well as the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to make sure that you are subscribed to the channel for Cardinals content all summer long. My name's Brendan Schaefer. I'm a Cardinals writer for KMOV, Channel 4 in St. Louis. I also do a daily podcast called Be Shafe Daily that we post to this YouTube channel. Sometimes I record those podcasts live, and that is an example of exactly what we're doing tonight. So if you'd like to be a part of the show, get your comments in the comments section. If you've got questions, plenty of topics, I think, to get into from tonight. I would still say the offense's just, inability to not really take it into the next gear is something we'll still be talking about, but it's not as much of a topic tonight when you get the pitching that you get so that the Cardinals win the game. We'll talk about Masyn Winn. That was a big topic of conversation on Sunday's podcast as he was out of the lineup for the final game there in Arizona. Everybody was wondering why. Was it a continuation of just the slow playing of Winn that the Cardinals committed to at the beginning of the year? They said, we're going to give him some off days sporadically here in the early going so he can get his feet under him. We'll talk about the merits of that a little bit, but more so the injury update that came from Ollie Marmol tonight or earlier this afternoon, whatever the case was on that, where he said, yeah, he's been dealing with back stiffness in recent days, and they're trying to keep him fresh and keep him to where he can manage that. And he's been playing through some of that stiffness, which, if you listen to Be Shafe Daily on Sunday night, is something that we certainly talked about as a possibility, not specific to the back, although I probably could have seen that coming if I had thought back to spring training and the fact that he was dealing with back stiffness at the time down there in Jupiter. But no, we just said, look, sometimes when a manager says the quotation that he gave to John Denton yesterday, which was something to the effect, I don't have it in front of me, but we read it yesterday, and it was something to the effect of, had a conversation with Masyn, and he needs a day. His body could use the day off. That's a little bit of a coded message for he's probably dealing with a little bit of something physically, and certainly that ended up being the case as they reveal the back stiffness had sort of reared its ugly head again. But the Cardinals wait until today to say anything publicly about that. I think the reason behind that is something that's not too difficult to understand. Maybe there was a competitive advantage that they didn't want to relinquish by sort of showing their cards and showing the availability of what Masyn Winn would have had for them yesterday. Is it a big thing? No, there's probably not a large advantage that you gain there. And I understand that fans look at it from the standpoint of, well, goodness, why can't the Cardinals just be honest with us? Well, I do understand that, but at the same time, it's really not the primary focus of the team to just make sure they're being 100% transparent with fans at all time. I do think this Cardinal organization, and make sure you hear what I'm about to say, I do think they could and should do a better job of that, generally speaking. I think that the cases where guys go on the injured list after you say, oh, no, he's just dealing with a little something, that's one of those that sometimes maybe they don't even know. But I could see where fans would be upset about that. I can think of another example where on the day of the home opener, we all asked John Mozeliak about, hey, do you think you're going to need another catcher because of the Wilson Contreras hand situation? And he said, no, as of not as of right now, but things can change. And, of course, the paperwork was already being filed to get Pedro Pages up to the team. So those sorts of things, yeah, I do think there is room for the Cardinals to be more transparent at times. I don't think this was a case of that. I think they were just simply managing it as they went with Masyn Winn, and now we can look at it and go, yep, there's usually going to be a reason when something doesn't quite look on the surface like something that makes perfect sense to us from the outside. We have to acknowledge the limitation of what we know versus what's actually sometimes going on behind the scenes. And if it's frustrating to you that the Cardinals wait to reveal certain things until it's already no longer relevant, that's certainly your jurisdiction, and you can make that decision to be upset about that. But I do feel like we did a pretty good job yesterday of sort of outlining what the possibilities might have been for Masyn Winn's situation. Good news is he was back in the lineup tonight and back to his major league contributing self. 2 for 3 with a walk, so he was on base 3 times. The batting average up to 370, a team leading 370, that is, for Masyn Winn, who's been fantastic. And we know that Sonny Gray was great. It is a marvel to watch him pitch. No walks, 6 strikeouts, 4 hits allowed in 6 scoreless innings. He picks up his second win already of the young season for the St. Louis Cardinals and did so tonight on a pitch count of 72. I believe the Cardinals were targeting around 70 to 75 pitches for Gray in this game. Ended up being 72 and made pretty much easy work of it once again. So how impressed are you, Cardinals fans, with the notion that this team seems to have an ace on their hands in Sonny Gray? And then other topics of conversation, Ryan Helsley continues to be fantastic, as I mentioned off the top here, and Ollie Marmol has a dust up with a security guard. I did not have that on my bingo card for Monday night. But all of that is fair game as we get into it here on Be Safe Daily Live. I'm going to take a quick sip and then dive right into your comments, which I figure are going to pertain to a lot of what I just mentioned, but maybe in a little bit more depth as we can get into some of it here. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we have in the comment section for us. Again, if you'd like to comment, all you have to do is hit subscribe. It is free to do so here on YouTube. Also, would love to, anybody who does have the Spotify app, go now and search Be Safe Daily on Spotify. It's just B and then the first however many letters of my last name, SCHAEFF, Daily, and then click follow and give us a 5-star review over there as well. We're up to 90 reviews, pretty well reviewed. Would love to get it over 100 and to keep the followers growing on Spotify too. Trophy Store says your adoring fans demand you unleash your knowledge upon us. That's maybe overplaying it a little bit, but I do appreciate you guys joining me for these post-game live streams as often as we're able to do them. Alan says, can't wait for the recap. Love the stream. Can't wait to see where the conversation goes. Yeah, we're going to get into it a little bit and just find that first comment that sends me off and running. Corn says that Ryan Helsley continues to pitch in every W. That's right. He has pitched in virtually every W. I'm going to go double-check that and make sure I'm remembering properly. I think he had only pitched in one game that they have lost so far this season, and that, of course, was the game where the Cardinals lost in extra innings, I believe it was, after he had given up some runs in the ninth. There might have been a second one at this point. No, it was the game where he gave it up in the 10th. That's what it was. The extra innings, he came in for the 10th. It was the Manfred man that scored, as well as Bryce Harper after they intentionally walked him. But coming into today, the Cardinals were 7-1 in games that Ryan Helsley appeared. Well, now they're 8-1 in Ryan Helsley games, and that is indeed the number of wins the Cardinals have on the season. So that, I don't know. That kind of speaks for itself. Yes, he is going to be sort of isolated to that closer role specifically, but I don't think that's such a bad thing. You're looking at the Cardinals getting max value out of his contributions, and when he looks the way he looks right now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what you want to say. Ryan Helsley is just impossible to do anything with. We might see Mason Miller of the Athletics on the other side in this series, young closer for that team. He's got some similar stuff going on, throwing like 103. But Ryan Helsley was flat out nasty, and it's like not fair. You heard Wilson Contreras maybe talking to Jim Hayes right before we got here to the live stream, basically said it's just unfair what Helsley is able to do to hitters. So he's been fantastic. And I really do like to see that too, because I don't know, he gets a bad rap sometimes, and I think unfairly so, because there are certain narratives that form, and then I feel like when fans have the opinion, it's very difficult to reshape that. And even if you're presenting just the statistics and the realities of a guy's situation, for whatever reason, I think he's gotten this label from some fans that, oh, he's not tough, he's not willing to do what the team needs from him. I don't think that's a fair characterization, and I think you're seeing now, like, the Cardinals are synced up with what Helsley believes is going to be best for his body and his usage this year, and you're seeing results because of that. I don't think that's something that should be lost on us. And you can also make a case for Mason Wynn getting the off days as that being kind of a similar thing. He's been playing through some back pain and still producing at a high level. There's no need to run the guy into the ground, particularly when we talk about the weight conversation, when Mason Wynn said he ended last year at like 165 pounds because he tends to lose 10 or 15 pounds during a season. He wanted to build up muscle in this offseason to where he can lose that weight, but then still end up around 180, 185. I don't know the extent to which he was able to accomplish that or will be able to, but the Cardinals just want to keep him fresh, and I think that's a noble goal without the back pain going on. With him dealing with back stiffness, you don't want to mess with backs. Anybody who's ever had a back injury, it's not fun. Is it annoying that there are several Cardinal players who are dealing with various back injuries from time to time? You've got Gorman, Arenado has dealt with it. and now win, and there's probably somebody I'm forgetting. Yeah, sure, that can be a bit of a nuisance, but I also think at the end of the day, Cardinals fans just want the players to have their best selves on the field and be available for the team when they can be. And in the case of guys like Helsley, I think they found a really nice balance to be able to get him there. And maybe that's what they're doing a little bit with Wynn, knowing that he's been dealing with a little bit of back stiffness, which, by the way, that was something that dates back to spring. You remember there were a handful of days, and that was actually when I was still down there in spring training before I made my way back to St. Louis in early March. There were a few days where he was not really doing much baseball activity because he had tweaked the back and he was dealing with a little bit of that stiffness. So this is something that you could conceivably, and I know a lot of people on Twitter, and I regret really just going into the weeds on Twitter as much as I did today. But here's my philosophy on that. I'll try to explain it in like 30 seconds and then move back into the content you care about. But when it comes to these things on Twitter, and I feel like I have some insight to give, I don't have as much knowledge as some of the other reporters because they're out there in Oakland, boots on the ground during these road trips, right? They're in Arizona, they're in Oakland. I'm not doing much traveling this year outside of maybe a trip to Wrigley and one other trip. That's kind of going to be the extent of it. So those reporters that are there that are gaining that information, like it makes sense to go to them and say, all right, what are they being told by the team so I can at least inform my opinion. And that's exactly what I did on the podcast last night. I read from John Denton's story where Ollie Marmol said, yeah, Mason Wynn's body could use this day. And that's like code for like, okay, there's probably something a little bit more going on. And yes, for the people that would say, hey, reporters need to ask the tough questions. Let me tell you, I've been in these rooms before where this happens. I wasn't in this room today, but what likely it was last night, I should say, on Sunday, is a situation where that quote is given, he needs the day. Somebody might then ask, is he dealing with anything specific physically? If the answer to that is yes, you might just kind of get that look from Ollie Marmol that's like, I hear your question. I'm not going to pursue it any further. He may just elect at the time not to go into detail about it. That might be frustrating as a fan. I get it. I'll try to do better than I did at times today of understanding the fan perspective. But at times when I'm being bombarded by just dozens of messages of people just absolutely, bitching me out, when I'm like, look, I feel like I do have some information on this, and I gave you all the context last night that we knew at the time, and one of the things that I stumbled upon happened to be the answer. He was dealing with something. And from time to time that does end up happening, and I've tried to avoid just jumping to a conclusion in recent years because I've realized, sometimes that information is not something that we're going to get until maybe a couple of days later when they're ready and it's sort of behind the player so that they don't like another reason. Well, why wouldn't you just say the truth initially? Well, that way you're maybe not putting the player in a position where then he is bombarded by the reporters a little bit more than he otherwise would have. And again, as a media guy, that's not my perspective. I'm not doing PR for the team, but I'm also trying to understand, okay, what would their perspective be and explain it as such? What's the benefit for the Cardinals of having people flock to Mason Wynn and say, hey, what's wrong with your back? And have him have to answer questions, and then maybe something gets blown out of proportion, whereas maybe they can just handle it internally. And then once they feel like he's on the up again, say, yeah, this is what he was dealing with. He's better now. Can you understand as a fan? And I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm not trying to be condescending. I was accused of those things today, and I want to do better about that because I don't want to be that to you guys. But does that make sense? Is that something that you can get on board with and go, all right, do I love it? Maybe not, but I could see the perspective on why that would be. That would be my hope for this conversation. Brent says the best Cardinals content around, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Allison, for retweeting. At bshafer12 on Twitter, you guys can retweet the live stream there if you'd like. And E-Rock staying up late to catch it. Sweeney says this was a good win. The last two starts we've gotten to see Sonny have been refreshing. This makes me wish we had just one more pitcher of similar caliber, so much more. Yeah, I can understand that. And that was what a lot of people thought, right? They said you signed Lynn and Gibson, you needed like one of the two, and then you needed to spend up on another Sonny Gray type. Maybe that would have been Jordan Montgomery. And if the Cardinals had done that, maybe their rotation would be even in better shape. Here's what I will say, though. I think Lance Lynn can surprise people. I think Lance Lynn, and his ERA right now is 2.6 or whatever it is. I think Lance Lynn does have the potential. Let me make sure that's right, too, unless I'm forgetting another one of his outings. Yeah, 2.63 after 3 outings for Lance Lynn. Hasn't gone extremely deep into games just yet. I do think he'll walk some guys and he'll deal with at times the lack of total efficiency. But at the same point, Lance Lynn could be a guy that, what if his ERA is 3.5 at the end of the year? And he sort of surprises people and is a legit number 2 or a very legit number 3. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think you can leave room in your mind for it. You've seen him have swagger on the mound. You've seen the type of personality and the type of effectiveness, frankly, that he's brought. So that is something that I think people should reckon with. But understandable, Sweeney. I mean, people wanted to see the Cardinals really go for the jugular this offseason in the way they built this roster. And there is that sense from some people that they stopped one move short of really making that happen. So we'll see how it pans out. They're 8-9 now. They do need to go on a bit of a run because you don't want to be lingering in that 500 realm for too long. That's kind of the way a season can get away from you, especially in an NL Central that has been better than expected so far. Appreciate you guys liking the video here. We're up to 30 likes. Let's get it up to old Brandon Crawford. 35 likes. Corn says, what's up? PJ says, someone give the security guard defensive player of the year. So, yeah, let's talk about that moment. End of the, what was it, the top of the 8th inning, I want to say it was? Or was it as late as the 9th? I can't remember specifically. But either way, it was after Brendan Donovan had been hit on the knee, and they had an unusual double play because he wasn't running at full speed to get to second base. He was a little bit hampered. We'll see if he ends up back in the lineup tomorrow after that sucker swells up on him, because that's certainly possible. But he gets tagged out going into second base, and they were waiting with the phone in the dugout to see if the Cardinals were going to challenge it. It was an inning-ending play, which is why I think the security guard began to make his way toward the dugout steps and try to walk out onto the field to do his, security guard stuff, whatever that may be, between innings. But Descalso is on the phone. They're locking eyes. He's just waiting to see that thumbs up so he can give the umpires one of these and say, yep, go to the monitor. We want to review this. And ultimately, he gets the thumbs up. Ollie gives him one of these, but there was some weirdness that happened in between. And whatever it was, either distracted the umpires, and Ollie may have already answered this. So if you guys were watching the Bally Post game, let me know what the answer to this was. It was either the case that the Cardinals didn't get the challenge in time, which I'm sure is what the umpires likely claimed, or I think it's a possibility because we also saw earlier this week Angel Hernandez said a guy swung a bat when he absolutely didn't, but the reason that he said he swung was because it was a foul tip, and in the moment, I think he just umpired it wrong, explained it wrong, but once he did that, he had to say, no, I had a swing, and John Boy did a whole recap on that one. My point with bringing that up is that sometimes umpires get it wrong, and so once they're wrong, they sort of just have to dig in and stick to it. Was it the case that maybe they were distracted by whatever the hell was happening with security and Ollie Marmol to where they didn't really see fully what the motion was? Their attention was not focused on looking for that. And then Ollie said, look, this was happening in the middle of it. That's why I didn't get the call in time. That's something that I'll have to try and glean and ascertain from the reporters on Twitter. And if you guys are aware of it too, you can throw it in the comments section. I won't see your comments for a while because I'm scrolling from the top still. But that is something that I was curious about. It looked to me like Ollie was just trying to brush the guy back so that he could maintain eye contact with Daniel Descalso as I go to fix my hat once again. And in so doing, he sort of knocked the guy to where he was risking falling down the dugout steps, at which point Ollie grabbed him and made sure that didn't happen. But then he gave us a classic meme of like, this guy, it was fantastic. I know Ollie probably is not too thrilled about it because there's going to be opinions about it and say he was in the wrong and it's a bad look because it was just a quick snippet of what you saw on social media. But it was funny. It was objectively kind of funny. Nobody got hurt, so I think we can all sort of laugh it off. Hopefully the Cardinals are able to do the same. But yeah, that was the security guard thing was surreal. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Allison brings up the tag by Mason Wynn on the stolen base attempt. That was unbelievable. Just two parts incredible between Contreras, the throw being right on the money, and Wynn he catches it and the ball is already on the body of the base runner. Just really, really good. And all Wilson could do, I love the reaction. I took a screenshot of that one too. All he could do was just laugh because of what the two of them had just done to get that out. I'm going to fix the hat because I hate looking at my hair through the hat. I know I'm such a diva. I know. You become a YouTube star, right? You think you're a sensation and you start being a diva. You can accuse me in the comments. It's okay. But I was tired of looking at myself in the reflection. Michael says, watching a guy like Sonny pitch just whets the need for another top rotation guy. Here's what I will say, too, though. What if you get into a spot where the Cardinals are in the mix? Let's say a couple games above 500. It's July. You're looking at the rotation. Maybe there was an injury at that point, but you're looking at Sonny Gray being an ace. Hopefully, Michaelis settles in a little bit to where he's closer to a number 2, but maybe Lynn's your number 2. And I'm not going to say specifically because I don't know who might be injured or what might happen. But let's just say that, there is a spot to be filled. Could the Cardinals go aggressive, and try to end up getting one of those top guys to make a run if they think they've got a shot at the playoffs? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it might be interesting. I think all the Cardinals need is to be good enough that they know they're not abandoning ship after 2024. They're not pulling the parachute on a soft retool. And we've talked a lot about what that looks like. If you don't know what I'm saying, ask and I'll re-explain it. But if they're good to go, they might be willing to reinvest in the team. They might be willing to add somebody on a controllable contract that they get via trade. If they're in the mix and they say, look, when you get to the playoffs, this is somebody that we can use and somebody that can help us, form a 1-2 punch with Sonny Gray, maybe a 1-2-3 punch with Lance Lynn. That's something that you could potentially see as well. So I hear you, Michael. I hear Sweeney said the same thing about getting another dude at the top of the rotation, but we'll have to wait and see. Justin asks, at what point do you demote Scott? I love his speed, but we can't have 0 for 4 every night. Yeah, Victor Scott is, I was all in on Victor Scott getting this opportunity. And during the stretch of plays where he's making plays defensively and he's getting on base at least a little bit, I was totally in on just letting him play through some of the struggles. He's still hitting the ball, but it's the opposite problem of Jordan Walker. He's hitting it in the air every time instead of on the ground. A guy like him needs to be hitting it on the ground because in the air, he doesn't really have a ton of power, And on the ground, it's a situation where he might be able to beat it out for more base hits on the infield. That's probably the way that it needs to be going for Victor Scott. And maybe that is something that you can get with some seasoning in the minors when you're not just trying to hang on for dear life against some really, really good pitchers, the best pitchers in the world, right? At some point, Justin, they're going to send down Victor Scott, and that's going to be okay. We're all going to be able to take a deep breath. It's not going to be the end of the world. I think for right now, it's okay to have him out there unless you're going to commit to Siani every single day. If you're going to commit to him every single day in center, I do think it matters for this team to have the best defense they possibly can. But there also is going to come up, it's a balance, right? There's going to come a point in time where you go, they're scoring 3 or fewer runs like 3 out of every 4 games. That's not the way that this team was built to succeed. You can get away with it on a Sonny Gray day because he's Sonny Gray and he's going to be your ace, but you're not going to necessarily get away with it on number 2 through 3 through 4 through 5 in your rotation. So I do think eventually they may need to make that sacrifice of defense for offense, but it's something they really don't want to do. If you listen to the way they talked and approached this entire offseason, it's not the way that they're hoping for this to end up going. They're hoping to be able to ride through with a prioritization of defense. And I do think Victor is a good defender. I know he had the error that he made the other day, but outside of that, he's been really, really solid. And even when he doesn't take the best route or might, be a little jumpy on a play, I think the athleticism has allowed him to make up for that. So I've enjoyed watching him defensively. Yes, you just wish he could get on base a little bit more. And at some point, Justin, they'll send him down. But I think that point is going to be Tommy Edman or Dylan Carlson returning. And it could happen sooner. If they get to a point where he's hitting 060 and they're just like, all right, we're just going to make the move because we're losing too many games by scoring 2 runs every night, then maybe they'll move Newt to center and that'll be the way they approach it. Because right now they're struggling to get Burleson. They're struggling to get Ivan Herrera and all these guys in the lineup every day. Yeah, having a guy batting ninth that's basically an automatic out is not ideal. The thing of it is, though, when he gets on base, he's almost an automatic run. I mean, that's a little bit facetious. It's a little bit hyperbolic, but you can understand that his rate of being able to score when he gets on base is pretty high. I just think, though, defensively, you want to make sure you have the best lineup that you can because that's the pitching staff you built. You built the staff to really necessitate having good defense up the middle and throughout the field. 100th career win for Sonny Gray. Great on him, and that's a good stat pointed out by Allison. Korn mentioned that he just watched the Ollie versus security video. What was that guy doing? Look, he was trying to get to the field. I think you just have to be more aware. Like, I understand, too, that Ollie was technically able to get the signal in right immediately after he got the thumbs up from Descalzo, and so I don't know why it took them as long as it did. He got an explanation, I'm sure, from the umpires as to, yeah, you didn't get it in time, or this is what happened. But I don't really know why it was so close. It might have been the case that Brendan Donovan, because he leaves the base, like he was dealing with the injury anyway, and so maybe he just figured they're not going to challenge this because they're not going to make me keep running out here when I'm obviously banged up and we're just trying to get me through the game defensively without having to bring Crawford in or make a move or whatever the case would be there. Up to 100 viewers live. Make sure to hit like on this video, guys, if you're just joining. Appreciate you for being here. So maybe that was kind of what they were looking at with that, but I just really don't understand how the security guard doesn't know the protocol of, if there's a replay review going on, just kind of take a beat to make sure the manager and the bench coach on the phone can have that line of communication open. Don't cross over their path. That's what Ollie was upset about. After the game, I'm sure he's probably going to be calmed down from it a little bit. But in the moment, that's why he made that gesture. Like, dude, what is this guy doing? Like, it's bang bang, and they're already often mistreated by umpires on the ability to communicate effectively and know, like, yes, we want to review this, and umpires are they're gonna say what they're gonna say. So in that moment, it's kind of like high tension. I can understand how some of that happened. And no, it's not like he assaulted the guard. Like, I've seen some dumb comments already on Twitter, but that's par for the course. Chris asking about Donovan. That hurt just watching him with the hit by pitch. Here's what we're going to not know as much tonight, Chris. We're going to know more tomorrow, because you're going to have to see how it responds and how it swells. And I doubt anything's broken or like too far gone, because he stayed in the game. At first, though, man, him trying to walk that off and jog that off was brutal. It just looked gnarly, and I did not envy it one little bit. But I think it's going to be a case where it probably gets a day off tomorrow, and then we'll see what that ends up looking like too. Probably just having somebody else in the DH spot. They've needed to get Ivan Herrera and guys like Burleson in there anyway, so maybe they'll find a way to have one of those guys in there instead. But yeah, I think it'll be something where tomorrow they'll know more based on if it swells up, if it stiffens up, what the situation is there. Korn says the weight loss thing that I mentioned regarding Mason Wynn is wild. I'm all for keeping him sharp. Yeah, guys lose weight during the season. I don't know if that's something that gets talked about a ton, but he was open about it in January. That was at winter warm-up when he gave that quote, guys. Mason Wynn said, yeah, he was down to about 165, mid-160s in weight at the end of last season after playing 142 games between AAA and the big leagues, and that is a bigger workload than he's ever had in baseball, and tried to put on enough weight and muscle and eating and regimen this offseason to be able to get himself into a spot where he can maybe lose some weight, 10 to 15 pounds, but lose it down to 180 instead of 165, 185 instead of 170, that sort of idea. And so Korn says that's a good reason to keep him sharp. Whatever they're doing with Wynn is working. Keep doing it. He just wishes they didn't have Brandon Crawford. Yeah, look, I mean, I think there is an element of that where could Fermin's production be any worse than what Crawford is giving? Probably not. But the other side of that, too, is that Brandon Crawford has been around the block, and it might just be a little bit early for him right now to be able to say, oh, he's completely cooked. That's clearly where the Cardinals are at, is that, hey, they're going to give him a chance to kind of warm into this. And you also look at the pitchers that he has faced. He's faced the starts that Crawford has had, the 4 starts. It's been Yamamoto, it's been Zach Gallen, it's been Joe Musgrove. He's faced the cream of the crop in terms of the opposition. So that's another reason that maybe he struggled a little bit. But I see what you guys see, and I understand that Crawford has not been, just the most productive player for the team. Sonny Gray, according to JKH, is such a gamer. So happy to have him on our team for the next few years. He dots the corners and is in total control. Very impressive. And I saw this tweet, too, from Derek Gould, where he was throwing in the bullpen between innings. Like, that's not something you normally see a starter do, but that's just kind of Sonny Gray. That's kind of what he does, and he does his own thing and marches to the beat of his own drum, which is absolutely fascinating. Best way to watch this team, according to Brent, game by game, not to think about the standings or any hypothetical run to October. Yeah, you want to take it slow right now. I think you want to take it slow without getting too caught up in the long term of it when you're only a tenth of the way through the season. I think that is definitely a sensible way to approach it. Sorry, I lost my spot in the comments here. I'll find it. Loved your tweet about the jersey name sizes. I said if they had combined the lettering in MLB and the lettering in AA and divided by 2, they would have normal sized letters on their uniforms. If you guys saw it was from a couple of days ago from the Springfield Cardinals, a video. The lettering is ridiculous down there. I mean, it's massive. Maybe it's just my eyes adjusting to what the lettering looks like now in the bigs, but go watch this video. I retweeted it and mentioned it in the tweet that Allison just alluded to in the comments. It was bizarre to see. Official PJ says, I'm ready to see Sonny when he doesn't have a pitch count. Yep, that'll be fun. Just Jershin, any chance the Cardinals move Goldie down in the order if he continues to struggle? Feels like he's grandfathered into that position, but it's hurting the offense right now. Yeah, Goldie is going through it a little bit, guys. And, I think you got to give it April, give it a couple more weeks. They could tinker, but I don't know if moving him from 2 to 3 is like some big, thing to say he stinks. but they might move him from 2 to 3 just because they could find they like the look of something different. Like there could be a way to do that where Nootbaar maybe bats second, especially if the leadoff man's going to be a right-hander instead of Donovan, if Donovan needs a day off or something due to the knee. So maybe that's something they could do. But no, I don't think they're going to panic on Goldie in terms of like he's going to suddenly bat sixth. I think he's going to bat 2 or 3 until further notice. And if you get into late April and then into May and it's still looking this bad, they can maybe have a different conversation. Sonny could have gone 15 innings. Yeah, he didn't look like he was too touched by anything tonight, right? I'm surprised a little bit at how slowly they're ramping the pitch count from like the 65 to now it was 72, and you know I think they would advance it a little more into the 80s next time. But whatever they're doing is working for him, and the fact that he's been so efficient has made it work out even better. Travis, I understand not wanting to move a young guy from a spot where he's having success, but it's time to consider moving Wynn to the second spot. I'm not moving Wynn. Here's the thing. We make too much out of the batting order stuff, in my opinion. If a guy is comfortable in a spot where he is, for the most part, I kind of would like to leave him there. And I get it. You're saying, well, Goldie is the one that needs to move down. But Goldie is still going to bat in the first 3 or 4 of the lineup. He just is. So I would generally like to just see them kind of let Mason continue to cook. They moved him up to 7 from 8, so that's a small move. I just don't know if they need to get too far ahead of it, but I could also see the other side of it, and there will come a point in time where they definitely do that. Heck, they might even consider leading him off. Like I said, if they're looking for a right-handed batter to lead off, if Donovan needs a couple of days with the knee, maybe you go something like Wynn, Nootbaar, Goldschmidt, maybe Gorman, depending on the pitcher. No, you'll bat Arenado still in the top 4. So Goldie, Arenado, Wilson, or maybe you go Gorman 5th and then Wilson 6th, whatever the case there. So, yeah, I hear you. I hear you guys on the lineup stuff. I just don't think they're going to overreact just yet to stuff. But, yeah, as far as Wynn, maybe he would be a guy that just on a rare occasion of no Donovan, maybe he could lead off. I like how Ollie gave him the forearm shiver, but then also saved that poor old man's hip from falling down the stairs from it. Yeah, it's like he created the contact. He initiated the contact, but he's like, hey, I got you, bro. Like, he was just so bewildered that the guy was there in the first place, and I kind of understand, too. Yeah, like, I don't know what he was doing there. I do know what he was doing there. I just don't think it was the right thing. Got to be aware. If that's your job, like, that probably is a situation that comes up a lot throughout a year, but maybe I'm wrong. James says they played an ass team. Stop. I don't know what I need to stop. Can I be clear about something? Like every time I'm talking about a win, it's, oh, you're just going too far onto the Cardinals. They're not the best team in the world. They still have a bad record. Like we do a daily podcast, James, and we talk about the game and we talk about some of the stuff that just happened. It's not, I didn't say they're going to win the World Series. I didn't say that they're a division winning team. I didn't say any of that tonight. We're just talking about this game. If I say they have a good game because they won, all right, chill. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But oh my gosh, how negative can you be that you would say they played an ass team, so you shouldn't say they were good tonight? Like, give me a break. It's crazy, man. And if James is talking to commenters, then whatever. But if he's talking to me, come on, dude. Sitting here bragging. I'm bragging? I certainly hope he doesn't think I'm bragging. I've made clear, I'm pretty objective following the Cardinals. I'm going to tell you what it is, tell you what I think of it, but I'm not going to, there's not a ton of rah-rah. I try to get excited because it's exciting for you guys if I'm excited, but that's just called having energy. Anyway, I'm not going to focus too long on the obnoxious comments. So 3.74 team ERA. Defense is drastically better. The offense should improve as the season continues when they get guys back from the IL. I think Drew is correct. What they're doing pitching-wise is in part because of the defense, but it is in part because of the better personnel they got, the personnel that can go deeper into games. Sonny Gray on a pitch count tonight, 72 pitches goes 6. That helps your bullpen to be fresh, and then you use the guys who are the best. I know JoJo gave up a homer, but everybody else, and JoJo still got through his inning. Like, that's sort of what we're talking about as to how you end up with a better team ERA, but you still got to start scoring 4 runs more than you score 3. They got away with it tonight, though. Ian, what's going on? Tuning in from the BART train home from the Coliseum. Extremely weird atmosphere at the game, but Cards fans showed out. Good to capitalize on Gray's strong showing, even on a slow night offensively. Yeah, Ian, I bet you heard what I heard over the television when Lars Nootbaar had a big play. The nudes were coming out even in the Coliseum. Pretty cool to see. James continuing, you're capping on your little bit of journalism on, letting us know what we're clicking on. I'm capping. I don't know. James, keep being you, buddy. Keep being you. But don't go through life being so angry, James B. It ain't worth it. How good can Gray be? How many wins? Well, Ace, I mean, wins is kind of a tough thing to measure for pitchers because he's not the only one that controls it, right? The rest of the team's going to have a lot to do about that. In 2 games by Sonny so far, the Cardinals have scored 3 runs in each, but they've won them both. So if that gives you any indication, imagine on the days where they might actually give him some gosh darn run support. Last year, he was only 8-8, but don't ever look at win total. He had a 2.79 ERA. He was second in the Cy Young. I think he was second. Yeah. Had a 2.83 FIP, which led the league. FIP means fielding independent pitching. So even without sort of the benefit of a really good defense behind him, he basically earned what his ERA was last year. It's not like he just had a great defense with the Twins, and that's why his ERA was so low or he got lucky. His peripherals were really strong. And if this Cardinal team has good defense, you could expect his peripherals to be strong and the defense behind him to be strong. He could be a Cy Young candidate again this year. I'm not saying he's going to be. It's a little bit tough when you're already behind the 8 ball, missing the first couple starts of the year, but that's not impossible. It's really not. By the way, James, you said the Cardinals played a single A team tonight. You want to know what the team's records were, who had a better record coming into the game? I'll give you a hint. Well, I'll just tell you the answer. They were tied. So they're both 7-9. Michael says, I know it's still early, but all the haters implying that Sonny wasn't a true ace when we got him can honestly eat you know what. I don't know how many times I should say curse words on here just because I want to make sure that advertisers don't get thrown off. But yeah, they can eat it because Sonny Gray is an ace of this team. And look, when they got him, I thought he's an ace because he's pitching well, but will he be an ace in 2026? He's 34 years old. How is he going to age? That was a question that I had. But then I got to spring training and I saw how this guy operates. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anybody like him. I've never seen anybody at spring training like this guy. So, yeah, I think he's a legit ace, Michael. It's a great point. Gabe, nice name, Gabe, says Cubs on the verge of going down. Fortunate to be in extras. Yeah, keep me posted on that one, Gabe, and the rest of chat. James still having and of course, I'm reading behind on some of these comments. So all these comments that were made 10 minutes ago, I'm just now getting to them. So be patient with me. Mike says, sure love having Sonny Gray in the rotation. Enjoyable when he pitches, as opposed to biting my nails when Gibson et al. Take the bump. You know, I understand. I think the Cardinals are going to be okay in the rotation, but it is a little bit more of a ride the rail sort of experience to watch the guys who pitch to more contact. Sonny just is in prime control of what he does. So it's a different story. Laborer asks if there were even 4,000 people at that game. Ian could answer that for us. I don't think there were, though, man. I was seeing the live shots on TV, and I thought that's just a really, really little crowd. That might have been even less than was at the Wednesday game in St. Louis when it was pouring the whole time, week and a half or 2 weeks ago, whatever that was. Taylor wants to know why it wasn't disclosed weeks ago with Mason Wynn. Because they don't have to. And first of all, it probably wasn't an issue weeks ago. Here's the deal. They did disclose it in spring, but it's not incumbent upon the team to every single moment throughout a week say, oh, his back feels good today. His back feels bad today. His back feels good today. Like, they're only going to respond to what the questions are asked of him. And if you start asking for a daily update on Mason Wynn's back, you're going to be that reporter that nobody wants to talk to, right? Like, you guys going to understand the interpersonal aspects of some of this. And so was it a case where he's maybe been dealing with it a little bit for longer than just this past Sunday? Maybe. But it also could have just been it reared its ugly head for a moment that he needed to take a day off because of it, and that was the decision that was made. I think we should be a little bit careful and understand, all right, what are the reasons that this wouldn't be disclosed? It's one of those things that it could be a day-to-day issue, and it's not necessarily the Cardinals' job to say, hey, by the way, he's dealing with a back. That's just not the way it goes. I say that as respectfully as I can. 2:30 a.m. first pitch is certainly more bearable when we win. I forget where Scotty is. Appreciate the super chat, Scotty, but I can't remember where you are that it's a 2:40 a.m. first pitch for you. Disillusioned with the low run scores, but luckily Sonny was dealing, and the pen was good again. Grand Slam, Scotty. Yeah, man, the pen was good, and again, they're going to win some games by scoring only 3 runs when it's Sonny Gray. The other guys maybe not as much, but Sonny Gray is the guy that they certainly have a chance to do that with. Spencer says it was a big win and cool to see the father-son commentary. Yeah, how about that for the Carey family with Chris Carey doing the A's games and obviously Chip Carey doing the Cardinals games? That was kind of a fun little side story. I hope people enjoyed that. I hope people aren't going to be negative about that too, because I thought that was really cool. That was really cool to see. And the Carey boys, man, they're both broadcasters. Stefan is in Double A, I believe, with the Sod Poodles. Those guys are polished, but I mean, it runs in their family, so it makes sense. Makes sense that they're good for how young they are. Corn says, "See you in Wrigley, be safe." Yeah, we'll all party in Wrigley sometime this summer. Maybe August. That August trip. Be a lot of fun. I can't party in Wrigley, but maybe after, Love Wrigleyville. And Taylor adding on to the Mason Wynn conversation, except that him being benched was framed as a mental grind a week ago. Not a mental grind. It was not a mental grind, everybody. It was physical as well the entire way. This is the thing. Like, and Taylor, I respect you. I'm glad that you're here. The articles were written, like the quotes were out there, that it's not just mental, it's physical. And that's why I continue to talk about the weight loss last season for Mason Wynn, how he played more games last season than any other season in his career, how it's the rigors of the big league schedule are going to be something he's going to have to get equated with. And that's why maybe they take it a little bit easy on him in the early going. And that's before even really knowing the full scope of, that back thing that happened in spring. Now it's a little bit of a recurring deal. And so I don't think this is anything to be super crazy about. It's just the reality of managing a physical and mental grind as well. It's a combination of two things that I do believe is something that the Cardinals are wise to stay on top of. If that's me just kissing up to the team, I'm sorry, but I also look at it and say, hey, Mason Wynn is aware of his body too, and this is a guy that I think is on board with the game plan. Maybe he wants to play every day. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been out on this West Coast trip to ask him, but I think it's working out really well for him. They're getting the most out of him. Remember when the Cardinals used to have Paul DeJong and they insisted that he had to play shortstop every single damn day, even when he wasn't hitting? And he continued year after year to overwork, and he did too much in BP, and he would continue to wear down. And then it's like, you're not getting the most out of Paul DeJong. Now that the Cardinals are getting the most out of a young shortstop player, it's like people are turning the cheek and going, no, I need him to play every day. I don't care. He needs to be able to be a grinder. He needs to be Cal Ripken Jr. Guys, Cal Ripken Jr.'s name was the Iron Man. Nobody else did what Cal Ripken did. He's in the Hall of Fame, for crying out loud. Maybe Mason can be there 25 years from now, but I think let's be realistic about some of this. Eric, man, I appreciate you. That is a super chat that I appreciate you, brother. That's the kind of super chat that I just give you my Venmo instead. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm kidding. Offense will come. Walker semi-snapped out of it. Wilson looking better and better. Arenado and Goldie will hit. It will come. Arenado, I will say, looks to be on the other side of it. I don't know how often he'll hit homers, but he's at least pulling basically everything that he hits, which is, let's be real, like you talk about, he's talked in the past about wanting to spray the ball and to hit it to all fields. You don't want that for Arenado. You just want him to be able to straight up rip nukes to the pole side. That's exactly what is going to be when he's at his best. So I think he's kind of coming around on it. Goldie is the one that they need to come around. That's the one that they really need to get a look at and say, can he get back to himself? Because he's got like a 530 OPS or whatever it is. That's not really going to fly for a guy who, 2 years ago was the MVP. Walker semi-snapping out of it, though. I think he will continue to just get better. I don't think Jordan Walker is going to struggle to the extent that he has. Another night where he sees a little bit of progress, goes 1 for 3 with an RBI hit. Did have a strikeout. Cardinals struck out 7 times tonight. It's going to happen. The team goes 3 for 13 with RISP. That's solid enough. They're making progress, guys. It's not there yet offensively. Certainly not when you're only continuing to score 3 runs. But I do think there's a world in which this ends up coming around for the Cardinals offensively. But let's be clear, it has to do so. Me just saying I think it can happen doesn't mean it will happen or that I even expect it's going to happen imminently. If it doesn't, I don't think this is going to be sustainable. On a Sonny Gray start, 3 runs is sustainable. Other nights it won't be. That's the way they built their rotation. It's not terrible, but I think it is the game plan of, we're going to let these starters give up 3 or 4 runs because they're going to get us 6 or 7 innings. But that means you're going to have a sterling bullpen and an offense that gets you 5. And that's the blueprint. Whether it happens, whether it works, we're going to see. But I do believe that will remain the blueprint. And you need guys like Goldie and Arenado to be hitting if that blueprint is going to be successful. Eric says, I'm explaining it with common sense. I appreciate that, Eric, and that you've been a big supporter, so I really appreciate that, man. And I'm not trying to be a dick, guys. I'm just trying to kind of get a handle on some of this stuff that I get how it works. You guys are Cardinals fans, but sometimes you might not be, locked in on everything the manager said in his entire life. That's why I'm here to try to siphon some of that and say, Here's what maybe was going on. And then you can absolutely form your own opinions, but at least try to be informed with what's going on. That would be my commentary. Sober Soup says if the Cubs lose, everyone in the NL Central will have lost today but the Cardinals, which is interesting. I haven't been up on all the scores in the division. The Cardinals or the Cubs did, though, come back to win over AZ. So that's an outdated comment, but that's my fault for going so slow. Gabe wants to know any reports on Carlson's return. It's going to be slow. It's going to be slow, guys. And I did see that Katie Woo, who is out covering the series in Oakland, back in her kind of hometown area, which is cool for her, posted earlier today. I'm trying to find it on her Twitter account, some injury updates, and I can get these guys to you because this is from the team. Edman will start taking dry swings today, hit off a tee tomorrow. So Tuesday, he'll hit off a tee. Dylan Carlson hit off a tee today, progressed to soft toss later this week, which means this is going slow, guys. He's hitting off a tee. We're talking like you're not going to see either of them in April. I'd be stunned if either of them are on the roster, the big league roster in April. Maybe they're having rehab assignments by then, but with all the time that they missed, I think it could be a lengthy rehab for either or both of them. Keenan Middleton started playing catch yesterday. Riley O'Brien beginning a throwing program this week, and Matt Carpenter traveling with the team and took infield practice in Arizona. So those are the updates, and that's courtesy of Katie Woo, which I believe that was Cardinals PR probably that put that out. But that's what's going on from an injury perspective, if anybody was curious. Victor Scott could use some relief. I agree, but he's battling through it for sure. So Spencer, hopefully that answers your question about all of those guys. Maybe kind of a bad look for Ollie if you're talking about the security thing, but at the same time, like he is locked into the moment of his job, and the last thing he expects is some dude to waltz in between him and his bench coach as he's they're in the moment, man. They're in the heat of battle trying to make the call on do we need to replay this or not, and this dude is kind of like waltzing in between. He just didn't expect it. It took him by surprise. It's not like he reacted crazy. He kind of did the little arm gesture of like, hey, man, I'm trying to, and then the dude almost fell, so Ollie caught him and made sure he didn't fall. Big time, dad strength right there by Ollie. He could have gotten it regardless of the guard. Again, you just don't expect a guy to be walking in between you and your bench coach. And the umpires aren't here to wait for you. And in this case, they didn't. They didn't get it done. Granted, is it the guard's fault? No, I think the timing of it, the thumb was either late. But like I said, I still haven't seen, because I'm on here with you guys, if Ollie had any commentary about it after the game of what necessarily happened there. But it was a weird one. I'm sure he was asked about it. So I look forward to kind of seeing that as I get off of here. Let's see. Jesse, we need to cook. It's nice to have you back. That's one of my favorite screen names on the lives that we've done. This offense is still inconsistent, not clutch enough. It needs to be better. Yep, 100%. They're going to get away with it when Sonny pitches from time to time. It's not going to happen every time, though. Certainly not going to happen every time. Yeah, Eric, solid strides by Edman. Hopefully it ends up happening. Be stunned if he's up before mid-May, though. Me too. I would be as well. They're going to take it slow because they don't want to have another setback. Making Herrera a backup when he's one of the best hitters so far seems dumb. Well, I mean, Contreras is being paid $87.5 million on that contract for a reason. I do think Herrera should play more, but like I've said, and I said this on the podcast on Saturday, the deal was, how do you get him in there? I said, look, I'm going to be that guy that everyone hates. I think you should get Herrera in the lineup more, but I also don't have a solution. I'll give you the problem. He's not in the lineup. The solution, I don't know. I don't know who you take out. You kind of wait for the next injury, and then maybe that fixes it some. But yeah, it's tricky. And by the way, the reason that he's not playing is because they have Wilson Contreras, who they signed. The reason they signed him is because in 2022, when they knew Yachty was heading out the door, Herrera didn't really grab the bull by the horns for that opportunity. But that's okay. He was a young player. He wasn't ready yet. He had a lot of learning and growing to do. He has since done a lot of learning and growing, but in the interim, the Cardinals said, well, that's all well and good, but we need a catcher for this next year, and they weren't really able to mentally rely upon Ivan Herrera's progression yet because it hadn't happened, and so they signed Wilson Contreras as a result. It's not an ideal spot to have two catchers you want to have in the lineup every day, but it's also a good problem to have because it means you have two good hitters, but the reason it's happening is because when that moment came for Herrera to take over, he wasn't quite ready yet, and now he probably would be. But yeah, you've got Wilson, who is contributing in many ways to these wins as well. So, that's just kind of what it is. They'll figure out times to get Herrera in there, but it's not ideal. Brian asks if Donnie's role has been relegated to DH, then playing the field only to give guys days off almost feels like a waste when he's such a good defender, blocking DH from the bat first guys or Wilson and Herrera. Well, Brian, Donnie's got to be in the lineup every day. He's their leadoff hitter, and he's one of their best hitters. So I don't really care where he is. He just has to be in there every single day when he's healthy. He won't be in there tomorrow because of the knee, if I had to guess. But yeah, he's got to play every day, and it doesn't really matter. Where he is, DH, whatever, doesn't make a difference. Now that Nootbaar's back, it is more of a squeeze, and that is something that could ultimately lead to Victor Scott being an option sooner than later. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but they could change course if the offense doesn't come around, and they could say, well, we could get Donnie into left and Nootbaar into center, but Nootbaar plays left. So for right now, unless they're going to give Jordan Walker more days off when he's finally coming around with the swing, they don't want to do that. Yeah, it's not that he's relegated. It's that his ability to play anywhere on the field is going to make it so that Donovan can be a daily player while not having to play the same place every day. He was always going to be a utility guy. The point was they just didn't need two utility guys. They didn't need Edman and Donnie to be utility. Donnie can do it, and he doesn't mind doing it. And he can play a different position every day, and then he can DH to have a day off his feet. So, no, I don't think he's relegated. He's their leadoff man, and he's very important to the team. Brock, you asked why change. Arenado has the track record. He just needs to be himself. Why change? Yep, and I think he's getting back to that. Look, it's not that he's tried to change anything drastically, but when you go through a slump, you start to second guess, and nobody thinks more firmly and fervently about his slumps than Nolan Arenado does. He's in his head and trying to fix it at all costs, and sometimes that can lead to, just tensing up a little bit. I think he's going to be just fine at this point. He's looking better already, honestly. Corn says he'll catch me at Sluggers after the game at Wrigley. You got it, brother. Has Mason tried switching his choice of popcorn? That could be something we need to find out. We definitely may need to find that out. Gabe, I don't know if it's fair to say that Ollie is wasting Herrera because, again, who would you sit instead? If your answer is Victor Scott and move Newt to center, that's fair. And that may be what they end up doing. But otherwise, let's go around the diamond. You going to sit Contreras? No. Goldie? No. I know what you're going to say is, sit Goldie, he stinks. Well, they're not going to do that. They're paying him to be a middle order bat. He's not going to be a bench player. So, no, is the answer to sitting Goldie. Gorman? No, you don't really want to sit Gorman. Mason Wynn? I know everybody doesn't want to sit him. Arenado? Of course not. Nootbaar? No. Jordan Walker? No. So, that's the reason, Gabe. If you have another idea as to how to get Herrera in there, be my guest and let me know. I think the answer may end up being it will be Victor Scott and maybe even before Edman comes back. I'm not saying that's the right move necessarily, but if the strain on the team ends up coming from the offensive side of things and they just can't seem to get it going offensively, that could be in what they end up doing because they can recognize that, yes, Herrera should be getting more opportunities. Maybe Burleson even, who was swinging it well against Philly, should be getting more opportunities. Scott has not played AAA yet, though he is not. That is right, Spencer. Brian says, Donnie's my favorite player, such a gamer. Yeah, man, it's not that he's relegated. It's just that he's so adaptable to his role. It's easy to just kind of slot him in and let him go because it's something they don't have to worry about. They just know he can move around and still be a gamer and competitor out there. And Peter saw the clip about the challenge. Yeah, I think it might have just been too long and the time might have run out. I'm not 100% sure on that either. Approaching an hour here, and I am out of water, so if my voice goes at some point, that's really going to be it. It's going to be toast for the stream. But I'm going to try to get to some of the commenters that I have not commented on so far yet. CJ says he needs some time in Memphis, talking about Vic. Let's see who else is commenting. Yep, they want to get Edman back. They got to take his injury slow because if there's another setback, you'll have to wonder what the heck is going on. Did the surgery really even take, right? And again, I don't know how surgeries work, so that might be a dumb comment by me. I'm not saying it didn't take. I'm just saying they want to make sure they don't have another setback. So as a result, they take it really, really slow. The Cardinals, Springfield Cardinals, ranked number 1 in hitting in AA. That's kind of cool. I don't know if I would have known that if Justin had not just mentioned it. I want to see if I can find up. The one thing I hate about minor league stats is it's really hard to find good, reliable player stats on the team site. Yeah, I thought I was going to find it, and it's absolutely not what I was looking for. It's Delvin Perez is on the list. Yeah, I don't think Delvin Perez is on the 2024 Springfield Cardinals. Unless I'm wrong. Thought he was out of the org. I could be wrong. What is Delvin Perez up to? Now I got to find out. Got to find out. No. With the Yankees organization last year in AA. Hit 170 in AA with them, and he is not on a team this year. At least a team that's played games. So there you go. Man, that was a pick that I loved for the Cardinals that just did not pan out. Just did not pan out for Delvin Perez. If I've missed your comment, send it again because I basically have scrolled down to the bottom now for the most part, and I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. Why are we giving Victor Scott the Cal Ripken treatment then? That's a fair question, and Taylor. I've said you should have him sit some games, which he did, by the way. He sat Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And people were complaining that he was sitting and saying, why is Siani out there? Sometimes you can't win. Sometimes you can't win. People like to complain, and that's okay. Peter wants to see him move Walker back to the infield. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He was a fine enough third baseman, but I think Gorman is ahead of the depth chart on third base compared to Walker. Like, that was a big decision when they moved into the outfield, and I don't think it's something that they're just looking to go back on it at any point soon. But if ultimately Goldie moves on and they want to try him at first base, that may be the last frontier before making Walker a DH, which you don't want to have to do. I usually take 3 starts to declare what's going on with a starter as a rule, but man, I want to jump the gun on Sonny. He is so good. And Peter mentioning that he loves his tunneling. Yeah, like Sonny Gray is a guy that it makes sense that he has great pitch tunneling because he's so hyper-focused on detail. So he wants every release point to look the same. He wants to be able to tunnel one pitch off the next. He is as detail-oriented as you'll find. And that's a benefit to the team. And it's something that can rub off on the other guys too. Maybe not the veterans that already kind of do their details the way they prefer, but the young guys is sort of the thought. I don't know if it'll happen, but I got to think Walker is the obvious first baseman replacement when and if Goldie leaves. It just depends on two. It's like they say in Moneyball, it's not that hard. Tell him, Wash. And then Ron Washington says it's incredibly hard. You can't automatically just assume that Jordan Walker, because he's big, is going to be able to be a good first baseman. In fact, I kind of think his skill set will not be as conducive to first base, but I could be wrong. Hopefully he pans out in right field. And he's not done a terrible job in right, but he's not, he's a work in progress still. Peter says when Nato retires, Walker should go back to third. Nato is only like 32 years old. He's not retiring anytime soon. And I think once he's an outfielder for that long, Walker will not be moving back to the infield unless it's to play first base by then. And Korn is backing me up on that with Nato's age. Kevin says top 10 pen. I'll say it again. Yeah, man. Helsley's ridiculous. Ryan Helsley is ridiculous. That's a guy that I know that I always say relievers are fickle, so don't spend on him. I would consider an extension for Helsley, man. I know the ERA is 3.00, but he had that couple runs that he gave up against the Phillies in that game that kind of stings his ERA. He's got what's he got? 6 for 7 save ops, 9 innings pitched, 11 Ks. He looks filthy right now. He really does. And let's see here. If the grave of Einstein ran the Cardinals, Luke and Baker next year, all in on Murakami in 2026. I don't know who that is, so you'll have to tell me who that is. Don't say it on here. Just DM me on Twitter. The tunneling to Galoff, I think it's Jaloff, in the 6th was elite. The sweeper away, sinker running back in. That's the kind of thing, Peter, that makes me want to go play MLB The Show right now. But as the longtime viewers of the stream know, I still don't have a PS5. But that, I love tunneling and thinking about pitching on that kind of thing. And Eno Saris, by the way, with The Athletic, wrote a really cool article talking to pitchers about pitching as themselves in MLB The Show and trying to learn about what their stuff might do. And how Tristan McKenzie tried to do a backdoor slider or something like that. Or not a backdoor slider to try and strike a guy out. And it worked, but he missed location by 2 feet. And after his catcher was talking to him about it, he's like, yeah, I tried to put that backdoor on the front side to the batter and just kind of have it back up into the zone. And he said, never do that again. The catcher told him, he said, but I learned it on MLB The Show. But kind of a cool article. That was a couple weeks ago by Eno Saris for The Athletic. If y'all missed that, definitely go check that out if you're a fond of MLB The Show. Brian's going to buy me a PS5 when he wins the lottery, which is sick. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll accept it. If you win the lottery, I'll accept your gift. He can't get to the ground fast enough. He's too tall for third. That's about Walker. Yeah, I think, guys, it's right field is what he has the best chance to be good at, if I'm being honest. I know that it doesn't look that way yet. His range and reaction is going to be a little bit iffy, but his arm, man, he almost had that ridiculous throw to second base today. It was a ridiculous throw. He almost turned it into an out. So I think Jordan Walker has improved from last year in right field. Would I say he's above average? No, I wouldn't at this point. But, I do think that he's getting better in the arm plays, and he's made some nice throws. Kevin A., nice to see you. It's a new commenter, I think. Losing Walker's arm by putting him at first base is not ideal. It's a good point. He's been playing a good right field so far this year. Give him time. He's 21, not far removed from a position change. Yeah, guys, he was an infielder his whole life, and then they said, hey, we need you to play outfield. And he said, okay, let me learn. Just give it time. I know it's not ideal to learn on the job, but it is something that feels a little bit necessary for this team. Kittredge is so much fun to watch pitch. He looks bored as tears on the mound, and his stuff is nasty. He does, dude. He just is businessman. He's business-oriented out there on the mound, 100%. Looks bored as tears. That's funny. Even his picture in the, his headshot that I just Googled, he looks bored. But he's got some good numbers. And that I know that nobody wanted to see Palacios go, but that was a good trade. That was a good trade for sure to me. Peter wants to extend Mason Wynn right now. Yeah, they haven't done like the real early extension for anybody in recent years. Not like the Alan Craig and Paul DeYoung and Colton Wong stuff. They haven't done anything like that lately. I think they got a little gun shy from some of those. Eric said, holy crap, did I miss that? Eric, I don't know what you're referencing as far as what you may have missed, but send me a DM on Twitter and let me know what it was, because I don't know what happened. I like to know what you're talking about. The show is GOAT. Yeah, MLB The Show is so fun. By the way, for those who have not necessarily watched every stream of mine, I am going to do it, eventually get a PS5. And when I do you want some live streams? Because that would be what I would think would be fun. Instead of looking at my face talking right now, I can just be like in a small corner of the screen, live streaming whatever we want to be doing on the show. That would be fun. Mike, thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you very much. I think Goldie will shake off the slump sooner than later. Even superstars slump sometimes. Yeah, and I will say this about Goldie too. He tends to start slow, right? Let's look back at last year. It feels like he had a slump at some point early in the season, but I can't remember if it was right away. No, because that's what it was. Goldie started like just rip-roaring the first couple series last year and then started to kind of tail off from there. But he's had years where he started slow too, so I don't think it's anything to majorly panic about. Until you get into May, then we can start having a conversation. Brian will chill with me on Twitch. And Brian, you got to help me out because I don't have a Twitch yet. But if I start streaming the show, I'm going to absolutely have to. Yeah, Eric, the Eno article, check it out, dude. It's really cool. It's really cool. Because like Vlad Guerrero Jr. was like, yeah, I played the show. And like it makes sense. Think about all the kids of the generation, they call it Gen Z. I've explained why I don't like that. But they're baseball players, okay? But they're also 21, 22, 25-year-olds that play video games because that's what everybody in that generation tends to do. But they don't play, Fortnite as much. Maybe they do. But they don't play Call of Duty. These baseball players are playing MLB The Show because that's what they grow up with, just like you guys. We're all the same as them. They're just really, really good at baseball, and we wanted to be really good at baseball, and we weren't, so we play on the show. Like, it's the same concept, but it's got to be really cool to be a pro and play yourself on MLB The Show, and they give you the 99 overall card. Dude, that would be absolutely epic. But if you guys like the show and you think that you would watch me on Twitch, I'll still talk Cardinals. It would be just like this, but I would just be, playing the show. It'd be kind of cool. And we can talk about more than just the Cardinals, too. When it gets a little more casual like that, like I feel like buttoned up, like I need to answer every question. I need to be on the ball so I don't lose new viewers. By the way, get us to Wayno. We're at 47 likes. John Mabry is one thing. We need to get to Wayno. Peter says, if the Cardinals get Roki Sasaki, will I shave my head? I will not, because I'm not a Cardinal fan. That would not be a good look if I were, just kind of fanboying for the team to sign somebody. But if they get Roki Sasaki, I will say they're probably going to be pretty good. That's the guy I said I would drop the Hermione Granger. Let me try that again. That didn't sound good. The Hermione Granger extendable bag that she had in Harry Potter, where she would put like all kinds of crap in there and it would just pulling out more stuff. That's the level of bag I would give to Sasaki. But as Brian mentioned, he's going to the Dodgers. Not even a question. Not even guaranteed. His team lets him come over next year very early in NPB terms to make the jump. Teams there don't really like that. They want to keep him as long as they can, which is true. But if he comes over this early, there'll be a cap. Like there was on Ohtani when he came, there was a limitation on like the international spending. So the way that would go is he would just go to the Dodgers because the most any other team could do would be tie the amount that he gets, that sort of thing. Jesse, we need to cook. The Cardinals have a lot of good pieces, but it feels like there's a disconnect or something weird within the org. I don't know if I'm crazy. And the lettuce is too prime for me to shave. Yeah, I did think about maybe getting another haircut. I used to have real long hair for people who knew me back before like a year ago. But, yeah, I don't know if I can shave my head all the way. Yeah, I don't know, Jesse. The Cardinals, organizationally, organizations go through times where they have to kind of adapt. And I think the Cardinals are slowly adapting to certain things where they've got maybe some antiquated views in some areas, but they've got a group that's been successful for so long. And so they're trying to slowly adapt to just that next wave of change that happens in the game. Spencer, I don't know if Chris Davis got busted for something. So I don't want to necessarily put that out there because I don't know the answer. We got to get me playing Winnie the Pooh's Home Run Derby. Yeah, there we go. What is that, a GameCube? Where do we play that one? Where do we play that one? Appreciate all you guys for the comments and everything tonight. It's 12:30. I didn't think we'd be able to go this long, but the viewers just kept coming. So thank you guys for that. Pencil in Jordan Walker as the 5th starter next year. There you go, Peter. Now we're really thinking outside the bun. Coyote Cocktail, who's your favorite MLB team? Are the Cardinals more of a job than your actual favorite? All right, so I'll go ahead and answer. I grew up a Cardinal fan. I grew up in St. Louis area, St. Charles County, went to Wentzville Holt High School, and I was a Cardinal fan senior in high school in 2011 when they won the World Series. I'll never forget Game 6, like all those things. But when I started covering the team for KMOV in 2016, and it was 590 The Fan earlier in 2016 before I got the gig with KMOV, it just changed. I was now viewing it from a prism of like, okay, this is my job now. This is how do I engage with Cardinals fans, and knowing that I had that fan perspective, I know how Cardinals fans think. At least I used to. Today I started to question that because I got into it with a lot of people, but I'll try to limit that a little bit. But I just started to do it as a job, and my fandom as I knew it just kind of dissipated. It's not something I chose intentionally. You're supposed to be objective in the role as a reporter and a writer, but it just truly, it wasn't something that I had to fight. I was surprised at how easy it came. And if we weren't over an hour into the live stream, I'd get into even more detail on it. I don't know if people care about the story, but I'll tell it again sometime if new viewers want to hear it later on in the week. I'm just really running low on oxygen and water right now, so we're gonna kind of wrap it up here pretty soon. When you become a sports writer, you can't be a blind fan. Not good for your career and ability to write. And Brian's right. The other part of it is you're almost too close to it. You're not a fan, but you're a supporter in a different way, where it's like you see up close and you see the stories of these players and kind of what they go through, and you go, man, I want to pull for that guy. I want that guy to do well, And if it happens, you feel good about that. If the team wins, you feel good about that. But is it because I'm a Cardinal fan? No, it's more like, hey, I know that business is going to be booming. People are going to be excited to read my article. They're going to be excited to watch my podcast. I'm going to be able to go cover a playoff series in a cool city. It's kind of selfish in a way. When the Cardinals do well, I do well. So it's just different. It's just different. But yeah, they used to be able to ruin my day. Now the only sports team that can ruin my day by losing is Mizzou, football and basketball. They can still ruin my day. The Cardinals don't have that power anymore, and the Rams lost it in 2015, but they used to ruin every Sunday. Oh, my gosh. B-Shape Story Hour tomorrow night. Maybe. Although tomorrow night I guess the game's so late I might be able to still do a podcast, but I'll be in Jeff City tomorrow at the Mizzou Come Home Tour with the KTGR Big Show, but I have to drive all the way there and back, so that'll be a little bit of a haul tomorrow. Excuse me. Sorry. Spencer, I don't think the management has been horrible. Way more quality starts than we had last year. Yeah, and Spencer, like last year, the Cardinals fans got on Ollie Marmol because he pulled pitchers too early. And I remember at one point asking him, like, okay, because they got guys that are more notable and known and renowned for going 6-7 innings, will that change the way you can – what kind of a change can that bring to your management and your willingness to let these guys go a third time through the order, stuff like that. And he looked at me like, yeah, dude, that's the whole point, you dummy. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I still had to ask it because I want you to say it. But no, he didn't call me a dummy. But no, that really is the whole thing, Spencer. They got the pitchers that can allow for Ollie Marmol to manage the pen and the rotation, I think, more effectively. But last year, he just didn't have those dogs. They didn't have the dog in him. And so now I think they have guys that do. That's the idea. Mizzou football, that's when B-Shave timeline is amusing. Yup, you guys, I look exactly like Cardinals fans do when talking about Mizzou. Although I think I have a little bit more insight because I do a radio show in Columbia, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. That's the one thing they can't take away from me. And I would like an NFL team again, but I just don't have that diehard fandom. If Cody Schrader gets drafted by somebody, then that might be my team if they let him play, because he was a great story out of Mizzou last year. Spencer, if basketball ruined your day, you didn't have very many good days. No, I did not. Not this past year. MLB The Show Talk, there was a glitch playing co-op. You could use any 99 card they have. I was using Tink and Mason, real 99s. I hate it when they glitch like that, though. That doesn't benefit anybody. But yeah, Coyote Cocktail, I hope that answered your question a little bit. Like, my favorite MLB team was the Cardinals, and now I'm just more objective, and I don't really truly have a favorite team because I find that objectivity in the reporting of it. And Coyote says it seems like kind of a bummer, but I bet there's more nuance. Dude, there is. Like, so is it a bummer? Do I miss it? I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe whether I miss it or not, like the ability to have that fandom. That's why I still need it for Mizzou. Like, I need that outlet somewhere in some sport that I care about, but would I trade it? Like, put it this way. Would I rather be sitting at home and getting to be a fan of it, or having the opportunity to talk about the team that I've cared about for so long, and now I just view it through a different prism with guys like you online, and we can have a lot of fun making conversation. I can try to make a career out of this thing. That's what I'm still doing. I say try, even though I've been in it since 2016. I'm still kind of fledgling as I view it, trying to really, I have a vision for where I want to go and what I want to do, and I'm still trying to make those things happen. But would I trade all that in the notion of like being able to interact with the team and see behind the scenes of how things work and have stories that won't ever get told, but I'll be able to know that they happened. Like, I don't know, stuff like that is unique. And when you care about baseball the way I always have in my life, it's cool to be able to reflect on that and go, yeah, do I have the fandom anymore? No, but I have some rich experiences as a result of getting to do this. And that's why I want to keep it. I want to keep doing it and keep doing a good job so that I'm afforded the opportunity to continue doing it. So yeah, I appreciate that question though, man. And yeah, on a future stream, when it's a little more intimate, maybe will even be better, because that's when it's like people won't get mad at me for not talking about the game. I feel like some people are like, why is he talking about himself? Who cares? Brian C., thank God Sonny had a great night. Offense needs some work. They all hit or none of them hit. We have to get better with runners on base, leaving too many ducks on the pond. Quack, quack. Brian didn't quack. I added that myself. But yeah, I agree. It's 100% what the whole thing of this team is. Will they hit enough to get it done? Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. Coyote says, I don't really get upset. I saw World Series wins at ages 11 and 16. Everything is gravy now. And that he stopped following the team for a while and just got back in. So interesting time to get back in. But I do think that they could be turning a corner compared to last year anyway. Brian says, get you to Gould status. No, I'll never be what Gould is, because he is tremendous at what he does. And he's also a full beat reporter where he gets sent to every road series and he's covering all those. I've got an 18, 19-month-old son at home that I cover the home games as best I can for KMOV. I'll ask him to send me on the road sometimes, but I've got other things that at this point I'm just starting out with the family, so I want to make sure to take advantage of all that stuff. And the resources and the sources and the knowledge that Derek has is commendable. He's very, very good at his job. Mike, thank you for being here, man. All right. We'll be back in the next 10 years. Spencer says he'll put money on it. I think that's going to wrap it up. I don't think I have a whole lot else other than Spencer. Yeah, they were inexplicably horrible. Mizzou was horrible last year. But hey, Dennis Gates, let him cook. He's getting things done in the portal. And by the way, if you're a Mizzou fan, this Mizzou Come Home tour thing tomorrow, we may get a chance to interview Dennis Gates, Eli Drinkwitz, and wrestling coach Brian Smith on the show tomorrow. We may not get all of them live, but we'll record some of them. And if we do, listen to the big show the rest of the week, because that'll be stuff that we will air throughout the week. So I think that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Peter wants baseball to come to Portland. Mention that next time, Peter. We can talk about some expansion and some different things. But I think I mostly have covered everything that I was able to see here from the chat. Michael Bush, yeah, he's not a Cardinal. He's unfortunately a Cub, and maybe a thorn in the side of the Cardinals for years to come. I do think Cody Schrader should be drafted. I hope he's drafted, Spence. I really do, brother. Okay, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. I appreciate you guys so much. As always, we'll talk to you next time on Be Shafe Daily and Be Shafe Daily Live. Peace.